Now, Nigeria's security chiefs are coming under serious public scrutiny and pressure over increasing terror attacks that have resulted in mass killings, especially in the northern part of the country. The wave of terrorism has sparked public outrage across the country, especially with continuous killings in Plateau, Benue, Borno, and Katsina states, and the emergence of a new terror group, Mahmuda, in the north central, which adds to growing security concerns already worsened by Boko Haram, ISWAP, Lakurawa, and other bandit and militia groups. The country's security chiefs include the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, and the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Adegbite. Added to this list includes National Security Advisor Malam Nuhu Ribadu, Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaro, and the Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawale. Meanwhile, the West African Bar Association, WABA, has condemned the worsening human rights situation and disregard for the rule of law in Guinea-Bissau. At the center of these claims is President Umaru Sissoco Embalo, who has been accused of eroding judicial independence and suppressing dissent. In a statement, WABA highlighted a disturbing pattern of repression, allegedly orchestrated by the country's leadership, particularly targeting legal professionals, political opponents, and critics of the government. According to WABA, the president of the Guinea-Bissau Bar Association, Januario Pedro Correa, and his family have received threats following his public denunciation of the government. Correa had criticized President Embalo for failing to initiate elections or a political transition process, as his tenure nears its end in February 2025. He also condemned what he described as rampant political interference in the administration of justice. The sole administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, retired, has also threatened court action to recover the 300 million naira which was allegedly given to the Nigerian Bar Association by suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara. In a statement by the sole administrator's special advisor on media, Hector Ibiko Wubo, the state government said it was not true that the amount was a donation, but an understanding to make Port Harcourt the host location for the association's national conference. The sole administrator acknowledged a statement by the NBA on the relocation of the 2025 annual General Conference from Port Harcourt, Rivers State, but rejected the explanation that the payment made by Rivers State was a gift unrelated to hosting rights for the NBA event. Quadri Alabi, the 17-year-old young man who became popular during the 2023 presidential election for standing in front of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi's convoy, has regained his freedom after being held for nearly 3 months at Kirikiri Correctional Center in Lagos. Alabi's lawyer, Inibe Effiong, announced his release in a post on X. He was discharged last Thursday by a magistrate court in Apapa following legal advice from the Lagos State Director of Public Prosecutions. We found no evidence to support the armed robbery charge brought against him. Effiong described Alabi's arrest and detention as a diabolical frame-up allegedly orchestrated by local thugs known in the Amokoko area of Lagos as Lege and Babawaris. According to Effiong, the boy had faced threats from the said individual since 2023 over donations he received from supporters of Obi. The sudden crash of CBEX, a digital investment platform accused of running a Ponzi scheme that allegedly boosted with more than 1.3 trillion naira, about $850 million of depositors' funds, has thrown Nigerians into misery. CBEX has promised its customers to double their invested funds within a month, but failed to honor its obligations, sending shockwaves running through the spine of thousands of Nigerians who now face financial ruin after the collapse. Many of the depositors were reported to have stormed the CBEX office in Ibadan, Oyo State, to destroy belongings of the company. Meanwhile, the newly enacted Investments and Securities Act 2025 has recommended a prison term of 10 years for promoters of any Ponzi scheme or a fine of 20 million naira. Additional Adegbite is the former General Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association. He joins me now to chew on these matters and a lot more. Mr. Adegbite, I don't envy you. We have loaded you with so many issues.
I can imagine we'll deal with them.
But I know that you were Secretary General of the Nigerian Bar Association. Now you are Secretary General of the West African Bar Association. Now you are Secretary General of the West African Bar Association. You signed a statement saying that there is a lot of human rights abuse, violation of human rights, violation of the right of the MBA of the Bar Association in Guinea-Bissau by President Mbalo. You are in Nigeria. You are the Secretary General. Do you think you have the moral right to complain about, what they are doing in Guinea-Bissau? When in your own country, people will also say, well, Nigeria is in a similar situation. Other West African countries even face a worse situation. So can you defend your statement complaining about Guinea-Bissau when we have issues in Nigeria?
Absolutely. Number one, let me start by thanking you for having me here. But it is important I will put this in context. Number one, I was General Secretary of Nigerian Bar Association. And while still serving, in June last year, 2024, I was elected as Secretary General of the West African Bar Association. And after exiting office as General Secretary, I ceased to act or speak on behalf of the Nigerian Bar Association. So whatever happens in Nigeria, I believe that is the responsibility of the Nigerian Bar Association. However, with respect to what happens within West Africa, while the West African Bar Association is the umbrella body of all bar associations in West Africa, it is also important to say that Nigeria is part of West Africa. So certainly, WABA as a body can also speak, on what happens in Nigeria. However, what we have witnessed in some West African countries, particularly presently in Guinea-Bissau, is beyond what we could think of what is going on in Nigeria. God forbid that we have such a situation in Nigeria. Presently, we have what is supposed to be a democratic government in place. And that democratic government, which came into power in 2020, February 2025, February 27, 2020, ought to have conducted an election not later than November 2024, preparatory towards the exit of that government in February 2025. However, the president, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, failed to put in place or put machinery in place for a transition process. No election was organized, no process was put in place towards, a transition. And actually prior to that, in February 2022, there was an alleged coup in that country. And as a result of which, a whole lot of people were arrested, both military and civilians. As a result of this arrest, the Bar Association in Guinea-Bissau, because of the prolonged detention of those who were arrested without trial, had to challenge the government that these people ought to be tried. The first thing was, where are they supposed to be tried? Is it in the military courts or the regular constitutional court? Eventually, the Bar Association went to court to mandate the government to produce people in court. You'll be shocked to know that even lawyers who went to court were arrested to defend the rights of the people who have been detained unjustifiably, for so long. And that's why I said, God forbid what happened in Guinea-Bissau should happen in Nigeria. We have a lot of freedom that we take for granted. But what is happening there, there's no freedom. Absolutely no democracy. Now, the Bar Association protested. Of course, some of these lawyers were released. But because the Bar Association had the audacity, according to the president, to stand up to an elected government, the government gave the Bar Association notice to, to be evicted from its secretariat, claiming that the building is a government building and is needed for another purpose. Of course, the Bar Association went to court to challenge the president that you cannot send us out of this. This is our building. But while, in fact, the court gave order restraining the government from evicting the Bar Association, but the government unlawfully and violently evicted the Bar Association from its secretariat. On this account, the life of the president of Nigeria, of the Guinea-Bissau Bar Association, was equally threatened, and that of several lawyers, including members of the executive, to the extent that the man had to run out of the country on self-exile to Portugal.
Okay.
So this is a situation in Guinea-Bissau. It is beyond what we have ever experienced in Nigeria.
Okay.
And we don't pray that we get to that level.
Yes, I assume you are doing your work. Secretary General, West African Bar Association. But look, the law is the law. Yes. I think it's Austin, right? Justice Austin, Austinian positivism, who says the law is what the lawmakers say it is. But it's not about law, this is about power. The reality in West Africa today, and even up to Central Africa, is that men of power, men who want power, they are seizing power and they are doing what they like. Whether it's in Guinea, or it's in Niger, or it's in Mali, or it's in Gabon, where one man has transformed himself into power. But you are Secretary General of WABA, you are issuing press statement. The law is this, human rights is this. Can we deal with reality?
But the reality is that there must be an institution or an organization that must stand for the rights of the citizens and the rights of the people. Where we have elected governments or even military government that have turned to demagogues, that have become, dictators, there must be a machinery that must be put in place to ensure that the rights of people are protected. Right now, we have rights of people being trampled upon, with reckless abandon. And the West African Bar Association cannot sit, because the essence of the existence of this organization, of this association, the West African Bar Association, is to ensure and promost the rule of law within the West Africa. So if the rule of law is being trampled upon, we must speak against it.
This West African Bar Association, does it have any powers of enforcement other than issuing press releases?
Absolutely not. We have no power of enforcement. What we can do is actually to speak and also encourage those who can take action to take action. And we believe sanctions also be taken against a government that is becoming anti-people and whose activities is becoming antithetical to the interests of the people. And that's why we have called in that statement on international bodies, including United Nations. And of course, I must also state that ECOWAS, which is actually the body that is that is the umbrella of body for all members of all West African countries, sent even delegates to Guinea-Bissau to mediate, to see how they can speak with the president, to put machinery in place for transition, and of course, stop abusing the rights of the people. But this fellow called Sissoko refused to see them and even gave them ultimatum to leave Guinea-Bissau. So this is the kind of situation we have in Guinea-Bissau. And somebody must speak. The West African Bar Association is rightfully placed to speak for the people. Okay,
Mr. Adegbite, let's leave Guinea-Bissau. I think I've been there once. I don't even remember where it is. Let's talk about Nigeria and human rights abuses. The rights of the people of Rivers State are being abused. So as a West African Bar Association deemed it necessary to say that the people of Rivers State are suffering under a declaration of a state of emergency, that people, who know the subject have said is unconstitutional, illegal, and oppressive. And on top of all of this, you were secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association. They say you people collected 300 million naira. And you should come and return the money. As a former general secretary of the NBA, this money, is this how you people have been collecting money everywhere? Now, Iba says, return the money belonging to the people of Rivers State. Otherwise, they will say, even NBA is part of the problem in Rivers State. 300 million, a lot of money.
I agree with you, 300 million is a lot of money. But when it comes to NBA and its activities, it's just a little money. Because as General Secretary, I know what it takes to run or organize, the annual conference of Nigerian Bar Association. And I can tell you for free, Rivers State is not going to be the first state. It's not the very first state that will give NBA money. In fact, previously, that same state had given far more than 300 million to NBA, to host conference in that state. So this is not an issue. And the question we should ask ourselves, was this money, was Rivers State coerced into giving that money? Was it a voluntarily released money to NBA? And was there a purpose for which that money was targeted? The answer to the last is yes. The request was made to the Rivers State government under the elected administration, Governor Fubara, that we're coming to your state for conference and we need your support towards the conference. And these are the things that we need, for the organization of the conference. And Rivers State government, led by Fubara, choose an item among the souvenirs for the conference that this will be sponsored by Rivers State government. And that item is going to be tagged and branded courtesy of Rivers State government. So this money was not given to NBA to keep or to spend lavishly on anything. It was actually to take care of a particular item in the preparation towards the conference. And when money was voluntarily released by government to the Nigerian Bar Association towards a purpose, of course we know that certainly has to be spent on that purpose. And machinery has been put in place towards procurement of those items. Now the issue is, the sole administrator claimed that money was given to NBA as hosting right or for hosting right. That is a fallacy. That is an absolute falsehood. Money was never given to NBA, and NBA has never requested for money for hosting rights for anything whatsoever. NBA goes to government or agency or individuals for support towards its activities, but not for hosting rights of any program. So what was given to NBA was sponsorship towards its conference that was targeted specifically at a souvenir, which was meant to be branded, sponsored by the Rivers State government.
Mr. Adegbite, you know that under the doctrine of irrevocable gift, you are saying, by way of summary, that this is an irrevocable gift.
Absolutely.
But there are exceptions. Where there is a dispute as to the purpose of that seemingly irrevocable gift, there could be an issue. Ibokeje Ibas, who is now in charge of Rivers State, is saying there is an issue. You people in NBA, you said you will come and do it in Port Harcourt. Now you have moved it to Enugu. There are considerations in terms of benefits. If we don't get those benefits, return the money to Rivers State. That seems to be my summary of what he's saying. But you are saying this is an irrevocable gift.
Absolutely irrevocable. And
absolutely
irrevocable. And clearly not refundable. The money given to NBA was not conditional to having the event or hosting the event in Rivers State. Absolutely not. It was meant to sponsor an item, and that's why it is not to say for sponsorship of the conference, but sponsorship of a souvenir, which I won't bother to mention, because by the time the conference holds, everybody will see what that sponsorship was meant to address. However, how does NBA release money to a government that it has tagged on its own as an unconstitutional government? I wouldn't know if we have time to go into the constitutionality of the government in Rivers State or not, because the sole administrator is not known to law. So NBA cannot refund money to that fellow who is asking that money should be refunded to him.
Are you saying that the sole administrator is occupying an illegal position?
Absolutely.
When even the president himself quoted Section 305 and even proclaimed a gazette and all that was followed through by the Senate of the Federal Republic.
Not to remember that, thank God you're a lawyer and you know the provision of Section 305. Section 305 has several legs. 305(1)(2), 345(6). 305(1)(2) gives the power to the president. And I've said it on other platforms. The president has the prerogative to declare state of emergency. But whether that state of emergency can stand or not depends on what happened in 305 subsection 6. 305 subsection 6b, where the Constitution gives the power to either approve or otherwise that the proclamation states very clearly that the National Assembly, the House of Rep, and the Senate, by two-third majority of all members of each of those houses, shall pass a resolution to approve that proclamation. We saw what happened. Assuming the president has done the right thing by proclaiming state of emergency. But what follows that can now legalize that proclamation beyond 2 days, if National Assembly was in session. If it was not in session, not more than 10 days. But this time around, they were in session. So they had just 2 days to approve that proclamation. But did they satisfy the provision of the law under 305(c)? Absolutely not. They did not. As it is, that proclamation ceased the moment the National Assembly failed to approve the proclamation in line with the provision of the Constitution.
Okay, Mr. Adegbite, let me attempt some, very quick summary. We are saying that Ibokete Ibas being an illegal imposition on the people of Rivers State does not even have the right to ask for any gift that have been given. And I cannot even say he's appointing auxiliary sole administrators in the local councils and elsewhere. And what is that principle is again in law? Nothing can stand on nothing.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
is that what you're saying?
As it is, you cannot give what you do not have. The authority that you do not have, because as it is, you are occupying that office illegally by law. The matter is in court. We will not go into detail of what is in court. But by law, by what is obviously clear to everybody who understand the Constitution, the man has not been legally, his stay as sole administrator has not been legally approved by the National Assembly. So as it is, he's an illegal occupant of office in Rivers State, and any action that he has taken so far are absolutely, unconstitutional and illegal.
Null and void.
Null and void.
In your view. Okay, let's talk about this Ponzi scheme, CBEX. This story about CBEX. A lot of people losing their money. Now we're being told that the people behind it, they face 10 years and all of that. Okay, people were told, if you invest this amount of money within 24 hours, the thing would multiply. Do those people who have now lost their money, do they have any rights under the law?
Okay, let me quickly correct something that I'm seeing up there, that Adegbite is General Secretary was actually General Secretary of Nigerian Bar Association, so that can be clear. So that we have a current General Secretary.
Okay.
But with respect to your question, I think that, number one, my admonition is that people should be careful in the manner they rush into investing their money on these quite suspicious schemes. However, the financial regulatory body in Nigeria should take responsibility for this, and they must, in synergy with the security agencies, must do everything possible to recover people's investments for them, because they allowed this to happen. If they haven't allowed it, it won't have, dragged for so long before this eventual disappearance of people's money and investment. I think everyone who was involved must have signed a contract or the other. I don't know what it is, because I wasn't involved. If the contract gives them the...
You were not involved, Mr. Adegbite. You don't want to make quick money?
Maybe because I've never been lucky with such a venture, so I don't do it. But if the signed contracts, which say clearly that in the event of any loss, that company must be held accountable, then they have rights of action against the company. Also, I believe collectively there should be also a mass action against the CBN, which, to me, have failed to protect the interests of Nigerians. Because when these people started the business, they went all over, on here, even on regular TV stations to advertise. What did the CBN do? Did they warn people against it? So everybody, there is collective responsibility on the part of the investors, the part of government, particularly the regulatory body, the CBN.
Okay, but what we hear is that people who invest money, they are, in the event of a loss or whatever, covered by the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Company, NDIC, I think. NDIC, yeah. NDIC. I think that's the body. Is it that people who go and invest their money in Ponzi schemes, there's no protection for them? Are you saying that, look, it's risky business and nobody should get involved in the Ponzi scheme? There must be some protection for people who want to make quick money in Nigeria. After all, we have all this, gambling, all of this. Where is there no protection?
This is more or less a gamble. There's no difference between this and bet. I don't want to call it particular, all this that you do. I know. You see, the point is, NDIC is strictly for regulated financial institutions in Nigeria. The banks, the mortgage banks, corporate banks, regular banks, microfinance banks, all of them. But certainly, Ponzi scheme was not anticipated as part of those institutions that will be protected and covered by NDIC. So the investors have no claim whatsoever to get from NDIC. As far as this is concerned, it's either the government, through EFCC or ICPC or any security agency whatsoever, were able to track, whoever did this and recover the money, and even if it is just their investment, because as it is, I don't think anybody should be talking about profit anymore. If they're able to recover their investment for them, so be it. But certainly, there is no way anybody can get anything from NDIC because NDIC is not accountable to them.
Okay, Mr. Adegbite, before I let you go, we started with the West African Bar Association and the human rights abuses that your association says is rampant in Guinea-Bissau. Now, what do you have to say to President Embalo of Guinea-Bissau? What should be the situation in Guinea-Bissau, knowing that you are also from a country where there is an issue about human rights abuse? In fact, some Nigerians say that the biggest human rights abuse in Nigeria today is that they hear that their president is somewhere else in the world, from France to London, and why is their president absent? And that their rights have been abused. They want to see their president. So, you know, Guinea-Bissau and also President Tinubu's absence that is causing a lot of political ruckus.
Let me start by saying that personally I feel offended and embarrassed that my president, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, will have to be taking such frequent trips and not official, more or less, across.
No, working visit. He went on a working visit. That's recognized.
A working visit to a country that ordinarily the president, as of today, must have visited not less than about 5 times since he became president. I believe so. 9 times. Thank God you have the record. To me, that is an embarrassment to the country because what exactly is happening in that country that the president has to be visiting that same country repeatedly and consistently. However,
you know, they say see Paris and die. Some people just love to go.
Unfortunately, when I saw it, I didn't die. So I don't know what people are dying, and I'm sure you saw it too. So, but the point really is that the president must take a second look at this frequent visit. I don't think it's the right way to go. On the issue of abuses, I think human rights abuses, honestly speaking, by virtue of my position and opportunity to travel around the West African country, in fact, generally in Africa, I can say that while we have cases of human rights abuse in Nigeria, but they are child's play compared to what we see in other places. So we continue to encourage, because Nigeria is big brother. In fact, they call us big brother when you go out there to other countries in Africa generally. But we must lead by example. Nigeria must lead by example. We must ensure the rights of people are protected and, of course, ensure that we promote the rule of law. However, in those countries where, and there are so many of them, not just Guinea-Bissau, but just that Guinea-Bissau is the focus at the moment, where the elected leaders have turned to, dictators, and not just dictators, demagogues that cannot be talked to. Once you do that, you get arrested, you get persecuted. We must continue to engage those people. My advice would be, in natural fact, this statement was meant to come up, was meant to be released in February, on the 14th of February. And then it was meant to be a message of love. But for some internal argument within the West African Bar Association leadership, we couldn't release it at that time. It was now released on April 13. Then it was tagged message of love, that the man should lead his people with love. He should show them love. He should use the period then, Valentine period, to show love to his people, to lead them with compassion and, of course, with integrity and humility. He should not see his people as the people that must be oppressed, as he is doing presently. So we advise to him is to please lead his people with love. He has spent his term, he has exceeded the term. Now it's for him to leave the scene. People are saying he should go, and he should put in place immediately a transitional process, political transition that will take over time.
Mr. Adegbite, that's about Guinea-Bissau. You use the word love. Now, President Tinubu and his team, they're saying, look, they're leading this country with love. And they add to it hope. And the presidency issued a statement saying that, look,
renewed hope.
Renewed hope, yes. Well, you can qualify. And they say that President Tinubu, whether he's in London or he's in Paris or he's anywhere in the world, he can run Nigeria from anywhere on planet Earth. Are you saying that he cannot do so? Are you joining people who are saying he must be inside the country for Nigeria to move forward? Does he not have powers of delegation?
Certainly. I agree absolutely that the president can run the country from anywhere in the world. Absolutely. However, for a very limited number of days, if the president is going beyond 1 week outside Nigeria, as it's already becoming an anomaly, you cannot, I'm not aware that the president of Ghana, let's start from our closest neighbor, has been, not just the current one, even the previous one, has been out of Ghana for more than 2 weeks ever before, or even up to 2 weeks ever before. I'm not aware that's happened.
You shouldn't compare Ghana.
Why should
this is Nigeria? We are the giant of Africa. Which Ghana? We are a country of over 200 million people.
I know. You know what you're doing with that. But the point really is that Nigeria must lead by example. Nigeria cannot afford to be seen, as a country where its president can always run away from the scene, disappear from the scene at any point in time, and claim to be running the affair from anywhere in the world. That is totally not what a giant should do. A giant must, be courageous. A giant must, be focused in leadership, and of course, in developmental projects. The people must see their president at every point in time doing the work that has been elected to do, not from outside, but from within. So the president must, while he's entitled to travel, but must restrict that travel to the limited number of days that to me shouldn't be for more than 1 week at most. And it shouldn't be so frequent. We need our president in Nigeria. We need him to govern us and lead us and provide leadership while in Nigeria, not while it's outside Nigeria. While he can do it when he's on, leave of absence, but that leave must not be so consistent that you now wonder whether the president finds something better that, that entices him to travel outside every now and then.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Adegbite, former General Secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, current Secretary General of the West African Bar Association, WABA, commenting on a number of issues from constitutionalism to human rights to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's continued absence from Nigeria.